History books often tell us that the wealthiest individuals to ever live were the oil tycoons or tech giants of the modern West. But they are wrong. The most staggering fortune in human history belonged to a 14th century African king, a man so wealthy that his personal spending once collapsed the economy of the entire Mediterranean. The year is 1312. In the heart of West Africa, a new ruler ascends the throne of the Mali Empire. His name is Musa Keita, but the world would come to know him as Mansa Musa. At this time, much of Europe is struggling. It is a continent gripped by the onset of the Little Ice Age, civil wars, and a desperate lack of gold for coinage. For the merchants of Venice and the kings of France, gold is a rare, mythical substance that trickles in from the vast, impenetrable Sahara Desert. They knew the gold came from the south, but they did not know who controlled it. Musa did not just inherit a kingdom. He inherited an empire that sat atop the world's most precious resources. Mali was the gateway between the salt mines of the north and the gold fields of the south. Under Musa's predecessor, the empire had already begun to swell. But Musa saw further. He didn't just want to collect wealth. He wanted to place Mali at the very center of the civilized world. By the 1320s, Mansa Musa had transformed Mali into a sophisticated superpower. It was an empire of thousands of cities, stretching 2,000 miles from the Atlantic coast to the Niger River. But the world outside Africa still viewed the continent as a frontier. That changed in 1324. Musa, a devout Muslim, decided to perform the Hajj, the sacred pilgrimage to Mecca. This was not a quiet journey of faith. It was a formal introduction of an empire to the planet. Imagine a caravan, stretching as far as the eye can see. 60,000 men marched across the burning sands of the Sahara. 12,000 servants, all dressed in the finest Persian silks. And then, the camels. 80 of them, each carrying 300 pounds of pure gold dust. As the caravan reached Cairo, the sheer scale of Musa's wealth became a shock to the system. He did not come to conquer with swords. He conquered with gold. He gave it away so freely, he spent it so lavishly in the markets, that the value of gold in Egypt plummeted. In a single month, one man's generosity caused a massive inflation crisis that lasted for over a decade. He is the only person in recorded history to have single-handedly controlled the price of gold across the Mediterranean. The African king was no longer a myth. He was a financial reality that the world could no longer ignore. Back home, Musa used this influence to build. He turned Timbuktu into a global beacon of intellect. He brought back architects from Andalusia and scholars from Cairo. He built the great Jinguereber Mosque and established the University of Sankore. At its peak, Timbuktu housed one of the largest libraries in the world. People traveled from across Asia and Europe, not for the gold, but for the books. But gold, for all its brilliance, is a heavy burden for an empire to carry. The very fame that Musa brought to Mali became the seed of its eventual struggle. By the late 14th century, Mali appeared on the Catalan Atlas, the most important map of the medieval world. It showed Musa sitting on a golden throne, holding a golden nugget. This map acted as a beacon for every greedy eye in the north. Following Musa's death, the empire faced the age-old curse of greatness, succession. His sons and successors lacked his diplomatic touch and his iron-willed administration. Factions began to splinter the edges of the realm. To the east, the Songhai people, once subjects of Mali, began to rise in rebellion, eventually seizing the vital trade cities of Gao and Timbuktu. To the north, the Moroccan Sultanate looked at Mali's wealth with envy. In the centuries that followed, the shift in global trade from the desert sands to the Atlantic Ocean began to starve the empire of its tax revenue. The caravans slowed. The gold began to flow directly to European ships on the coast. The empire did not vanish overnight. It eroded. It fractured into smaller kingdoms, its central authority dissolving into the dust of the Sahel. The great libraries were hidden away, and the world began to forget that the gold in their coins had ever been African. We often look at the ruins of the past and wonder how such height could lead to such a fall. But the story of Mansa Musa is not a tragedy of decline. It is a testament to what was possible. For centuries, a narrative was crafted that Africa was a continent without a history of its own, a place that waited for others to bring it into the light of civilization. But Mansa Musa stands as a towering contradiction to that lie. He was a king who commanded the markets of the world. He was a patron who valued a manuscript more than a gold bar. He built a society where trade, faith, and education were the pillars of power. Today we see the gold, but we often miss the legacy. The manuscripts of Timbuktu still exist, saved by families who hid them from invaders for generations. They are a reminder that Africa's greatest wealth was never just what lay beneath its soil, but the brilliance of the minds that governed it. When we remember Mansa Musa, we don't just see a rich man, we see a mirror reflecting a version of history that has been silenced for too long, a version where Africa was not a spectator in the global story, but its most powerful author.